Etsy sellers, the text tax. What is it? Why are you putting your customers off with it? And how do we use text properly? So text tax, it's basically every single piece of text you put in your listing description, in your photo slots, anywhere that the customer has to stop and read, it is a tax on their mind which they need to pass through or not pass through to then make a decision, am I going to buy this or not? So text tax, what we're trying to do with text is convince the customer to buy our listing. But too often when I look at your listings, what we're doing is we're just boring customers to death. We're confusing people, and the last thing we're doing with our sales copy, that's what this is, a product description is sales copy. The last thing we're doing is convincing them to buy anything because they're just put off. Let me explain these two areas. Photography, which is surprising, you know, because most people think, oh yeah, text, the description. Let's talk about photography first, and then we're going to talk about the description. So this is what's going on in your photography, right? In your photos, you will put infographics, which I tell you to do. I'm a supporter of these, okay? And this is for those of you, especially that do digital listings, because in digital listings, often we have slightly more infographic material than we would as if we were selling a chopping board or something, okay? Often in digital, you might have 3 or 4 of these things, right? And the point of infographics, it's quite simple. Remove confusion, create trust, and sell the listing. Okay, that's what infographics are for. They're there for a purpose. But if you start waffling on about information that the customers don't need to know at the photographic level, there's 2 levels. Photos are way more important than your description, which I'm going to talk about in a minute. Photos are everything, right? So when you put an infographic in to your photo slot, if it's not removing confusion, which is number 1, gaining trust, adding trust for the customer, and literally selling the item with amazing benefits for the customer, that text tax shouldn't be in the infographics. In fact, any text that you put in the photo slot needs to add to the chances of the customer buying the listing. It's that simple. Every bit of text, question yourself. Say, well, is this adding to the chances of selling? Am I removing confusion? Am I gaining trust with the customer? If not, leave it for the description, you know, because the customer won't read, they won't read it. It's too much, right? They're going to get bored. They won't read it and they won't buy. Okay? That's what's going to happen if you put too much text tax on the customer. And I don't think anyone has ever mentioned this before. I teach this all the time, have done for the last 10 years, but I just haven't mentioned it, but I'm mentioning it now. Check your photographs. Check your photo slots. If you're using infographics, you know, are you overburdening the customer with information, right? We don't want to do that. So now, once you've looked at that and thought, oh, maybe I am, maybe I need to move stuff down into my description, let's talk about product descriptions. Let's talk about the text tax of descriptions. I love that saying, the text tax. So, descriptions, okay? It's the other place that customers get taxed. You're taxing them. You're trying to sell to them, but too often you're not. You're not selling to them. You're actually causing them problems. You're making things difficult for the customer. This is how you do your descriptions right and make sure the text tax is minimum. Okay? Keep it short. Okay? For most people, under 300 words. Easily under 300 words. Okay, if you've got a technical product or a product that needs explanation, You know the customer's going to read the technical details. Of course, you put as much text as is necessary. If the information is technical, you are adding value. It's not a tax, right? That's important. But generally speaking, for average Etsy products, 300 words or less, for sure. It doesn't, usually 200. You just don't need to have great length for it. Okay, number 2. And again, this is super basic advice, but so many people don't do it. Keep it simple. Have a structure for your description, So what I like to do is have 3 sections, and I explain this in another video on my channel. Sales copy, first bit, tell people about the product, right? Links, so this is something I tell you all to do, and still some of you are not doing it. You need section and store links in your description that take the customer to the section the product comes from. Did you know when you put a section link in your description, it's a live clickable link? The same as for your store. Live clickable link. Think about that. How much more traffic you can get. They need to be in there, right? Keep it simple. Sales copy, section and store links, and then underneath there, product specifics, details, measurements, sizing, materials. That's basically a piece of product sales copy. It doesn't need to be complicated. I see massive product descriptions, 800 words, 1,000 words. It's just bonkers. You don't need to do that. The text tax for customers will be massive if you do that. They're just going to switch off. They probably won't even get to the bottom. Most Etsy customers don't get to the bottom. So if you've got anything important towards the bottom, they're probably not going to read it, And that brings me to what I'm saying here. If you have to scroll, with your mouse or your phone, it's generally too long. Okay? Keep it brief, keep it simple, keep the customer interested. We've got to move the customer through your photo slots, text tax to the minimum. We want to convince the customer to buy our listing as we move them through that sales funnel of photography and infographics. Once they've gone there, they will visit your description. How much of it they read? Nobody knows. We know that most customers don't get to the bottom. They don't read all the way down, right? How much are they going to read though? We don't know. So if we don't know, we've got to keep it simple. Move them smoothly and seamlessly through the product description. Don't create barriers to purchase. Make it easy for the customer to trust you and part with their money. That's what we're doing with photography and video, and we keep the tax of text to a minimum. So I'd like you to go and check your descriptions, get into my comments and tell me how long are your descriptions, how many words, just roughly tot it up. How many words are you using for your descriptions? I'd love to know in the comments. And as always, if you want to work with me, don't wait. Don't guess. The booking now button for my Etsy Academy is coming up on your screen. One-to-one private group learning to succeed on Etsy. 7-day free trial now on. I look forward to catching you in the comments and catching you in the Academy. Cheers.